SpongeBob SquarePants is just about one of the most successful TV shows ever created. There is no one reason why SpongeBob is as successful as it is. More so a lot of little reasons. Something that SpongeBob does particularly well is its use of background characters. A background character is a character who is present in a scene but is not a part of the main cast, nor has a character arc of their own. There are a few different ways that SpongeBob can use its background characters, and they all tell us something about how background and minor characters are used in storytelling. As we go over how background characters are used in SpongeBob, try to consider some other stories that use background characters in similar ways, and whether or not they fail or succeed in using those characters. What makes SpongeBob's background characters so special is just how memorable they are. Most shows have intentionally forgettable background characters. Take, for example, Regular Show, where the background and minor characters are usually human, while the main characters are animals and gumball machines and whatever Muscle Man's supposed to be. The memorability of the background characters in SpongeBob is infinitely helped a lot by their colorful and shapely designs. You're much more likely to remember this than this. And this is nothing against Regular Show's background characters. I understand Regular Show's background characters are intentionally standard to allow the main characters to stick out more within the world. Another thing about the background fish that I love is that they have a little bit of edge to them. If they don't get their Krabby Patties, they get mad. So, without further ado, here are 3 ways SpongeBob SquarePants utilizes its background characters. Number 1. The Mob. The first episode of SpongeBob didn't include the background fish as we know them today. However, the conflict of the first episode revolves around a mob of anchovies. This origin story episode tells us how SpongeBob got his job at the Krusty Krab. Initially, Krabs didn't want to hire the little square dude due to Squidward's not so great recommendation.
No.
So he sends him off to pick up a product that doesn't exist just to get him out of his hair. Once SpongeBob is out of the picture, 4 buses surround the Krusty Krab and a mob of anchovies swarm the restaurant, demanding food. In this episode, and many others, the success, or sometimes even the survival, of our main characters come from whether or not they succeed or fail in satiating the mob's demands. In the first episode, satisfying the anchovies with their Krabby Patties is what allows our protagonist to prove himself and achieve his want: the job at the Krusty Krab. The anchovies are also used to give comeuppance to Squidward and Krabs. They are attacked by the anchovies, fearing for their lives, and we as the audience can get a little bit of satisfaction from that since they were so rude to SpongeBob earlier in the episode. Other episodes that use background fish as the mob include Patty Hype, where the mob's extreme love or extreme hate of the pretty patties motivates the characters' actions and the results of the story. The final conflict in As Seen on TV revolves around SpongeBob desiring approval from a group of disapproving background fish who just want their lunch, while SpongeBob attempts to entertain them instead. His character desire or want contradicts the desires of the mob, and the mob is the one with the power. And Jellyfish Hunter uses the background fish's willingness to patronize the Krusty Krab more often if jellyfish jelly is on the menu as a motivator for Krabs to take advantage of the town's jellyfish, turning him into that episode's villain. I want to touch a little more on Jellyfish Hunter because it does something few shows would do. It actually gives a musical number to a background character. Usually a musical number is used in a story when a character's emotions are so strong that words alone can't properly convey the feeling. Since musical numbers so deeply tell us about a character's feelings, they are often delivered by characters whose feelings matter to the story. You know, not background characters. Fred the background fish's "Hey all you people" does convey strong emotion, as it shows how Fred feels about the Krabby Patty with jellyfish jelly. However, since this is a background character, anything he does has to be in service of a main character, and this song is no exception. Fred's song is in service of Mr. Krabs' corruption arc. as Fred's passion for the jellyfish jelly, which influences the mob of other fish to have that same passion, is the source of Krabs' greed and his motivator for committing the evil he does in the episode. Instead of having a song that Krabs sings directly about how successful jellyfish jelly would be, we get the song from the perspective of a random customer. This is a more clever and much funnier way of conveying this information, all while not revealing Krabs' eventual intentions. It's important that this song be sung by a background character. If any main or even secondary character delivered this song, it would not accomplish what it sets out to do. Imagine for a second if Patrick sang this song. It certainly would have been possible. The voice actors have similar vocal ranges, Patrick is a Krusty Krab regular, and he loves food. Why is it that Patrick, a more recognizable character, wasn't given this song? It's because if Patrick sang the song, the episode would now have to, at least in part, be about Patrick. The song would not effectively inform Krabs' arc because the audience would be focused on Patrick. Giving the song to Fred, a background character, does not take this focus away from the story. He can sing and be done, and we can get back to what we're focused on. Patrick would also be a horrible choice for a representation of the mob. I mean, the dude lives under a rock. How much more off the grid can you get? If one of the many background fish we know pops up to sing a song, we as the audience can assume the other background fish feels similarly, as they often have a bit of a hive mind, especially when it comes to Krabby Patties. Now, before I go further into this discussion, I feel it important to address why I would think so deeply into this. At the end of the day, the "Hey All You People" song isn't as iconic because of how it serves the overall character arcs like I've been rambling about. It's iconic because it's hilarious for this random fish to start singing about a sandwich. This is the most surface level aspect to why this song works. It's just good. It's funny. It fits the tone of the show. It's sung well. However, something just being good or funny isn't what makes a show like SpongeBob as incredible as it is. Lots of things are funny, but very few things have such tight, well thought out storytelling. In this video's discussion, and most discussions on this channel, I want to consider the beneath the surface aspects that make stories like this successful, because it's these aspects that can be recognized and even replicated if learned to identify properly. Writing a good song, hiring a talented voice actor to sing it, hiring skilled animators to animate it, these things take skill of their own for sure, but those things don't matter if you don't truly know how to break down the fundamentals of storytelling to serve your own story. With all that in mind, let's explore the next use of the background fish. Number 2. As minor characters. Sometimes the background fish are used in a plot-significant way as characters who impact our leads individually. One episode where the background fish really steal the show is Chocolate with Nuts. In the episode, SpongeBob and Patrick become door-to-door chocolate bar salesmen. Their clients? The citizens of Bikini Bottom. These minor fish characters are responsible for some of the most memorable moments of this episode. Some of the characters that Sponge and Pat interact with in the episode have unique designs, such as the con man and the old lady's mother, who's this fried worm thing for some reason. But most of the characters in this episode are the same background fish we see around the Krusty Krab in any given episode, given life and voice during the brief amounts of screen time they have. Watching this episode as a fan of the other episodes makes you feel more of a connection to Bikini Bottom as a setting. These people don't feel like props to be brought on and set aside when not needed for the plot. They feel like human beings, citizens of the world we are immersed in. I think it's a big strength of the episode that one of its most memorable characters, the guy who screams, "Chocolate!" is a background fish that we see all the time. You can see him in other episodes and be like, hey, that's the chocolate guy. He's at the Krusty Krab. Oh, I know that guy. I think that's why the pizza delivery customer from Pizza Delivery is a background fish that we never see again. This guy is so made to be hated that they had to retire his character model like a sports number so he would never be seen again. Since the chocolate guy is so likable. Not only because of his hilarious outburst, but also being the one who saves the day at the end by buying all the chocolate, the animators deciding to use a familiar face only enhances this episode. Quick interruption. Then, back to the video. If you like hearing me critique TV shows and films, maybe you'd like to hear my thoughts about video games. If that's also your thing, head on over to my other channel, The Game Cubicle. I just published a video on a ridiculous Game Boy Advance SpongeBob game, Super Sponge, and I think you would really enjoy it. Link in the description. And now the last use of the background fish as collateral damage. Number 3. As potential victims of violence. You'd be surprised how many life and death situations pop up in SpongeBob. Between Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy's villains, quote-unquote evil butterflies, and even a comically large deep fryer, the citizens of Bikini Bottom are often in constant peril. Seriously, what's up with the joke with the deep fryer and the fish sticks? It's so morbid! The protection of innocent civilians is a common trope of storytelling. Seen mostly in superhero and science fiction stories, the trope involves a group of random bystanders caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time, causing tension and adding stakes to our hero's journey. There is one incredibly important aspect of this trope often not noticed. In a story, there actually has to be a reason for the audience to care if something happens to these civilians. A story should never expect its audience to care about random civilians just by virtue of them being random civilians. There are ways to make the audience care about random civilians, and it can be done with only a few seconds of screen time. Let's take a look at the Alaskan Bullworm episode. After the initial attack from the worm, the citizens of Bikini Bottom all gather in the Krusty Krab to figure out what to do. With just a few brief moments, we get a glimpse of some of the average citizens who've had a run-in with the worm, like this guy. Now, yes, this is a funny gag, but it also tells us that someone in this world was hurt by this. And since this character made us laugh and he's kind of funny looking, we now care about his well-being. In this scene, we see more about exactly how this antagonistic force hurt these people, and how they propose to work it out. After Sandy volunteers to go after the worm, Krabs proposes they also try Patrick's backup plan. Take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else. To which we cut away to the citizens of Bikini Bottom banding together to literally push the city somewhere else. Classic. This joke is then called back to in the end, where even though they succeeded in pushing the entire town away, they end up getting crushed by the worm anyway, punishing them for listening to Patrick's foolish idea, and reinforcing the main lesson of the episode being that you can't run away from your problems. The worm then lets out a jovial ouch. That sounds quite non-threatening to let the audience know that, even though they may not be having the best day, the citizens of Bikini Bottom are going to be fine. This was necessary to the story because we've been made to care about the citizens of Bikini Bottom. And while we didn't get to see them succeed at saving their city, well, we know they aren't all dead either. Another one of my favorite instances of the background fish being potential collateral damage is in SpongeGuard on Duty. The main theme of this episode is that with great power comes great responsibility. SpongeBob is shown to want all the glory that Larry gets for being a lifeguard, so he lies about being one himself without fully understanding what he would need to do. The central conflict of this episode is that the lives of the beachgoers are in the hands of professional goofy goober SpongeBob. What you may not have noticed about this episode is that it gets you to care about these beachgoers in a simple yet effective fashion. It happens in this moment.
These good people. Go, go, go!
This might seem like a simple throwaway gag. Larry calls the beachgoers good people, and then we cut to a hot dog eating contest, something often associated with lowbrow individuals. What is behind the surface of this line, though, is the seed being planted that these lives are valuable, worth protecting. They live in peace, they participate in goofy activities, they're happy. Also, hot dogs are funny. Similar to what I said about the butt guy earlier, we as the audience are more inclined to like characters who make us laugh. But even with all of this work making the background fish matter, they still have them all leave towards the end of the episode, in favor of putting Patrick in danger instead. So instead of SpongeBob being responsible for the lives of all the background fish, he's just responsible for Patrick alone. So even though the episode did great work making you care about the background fish, there truly was no substitute for how much the audience would care about an established main character instead. But why get so wrapped up on background fish? Well, personally, I feel a bit of a camaraderie with these background fish because, for me, working as a relatively new actor in Hollywood, I've worked a lot of background roles myself. Here's me in an indie movie,
There I am, Gary, there I am.
Here's me in last year's New Year's Eve show.
Look, Gary, there I am again.
What I find fascinating about background characters is the limits to which the story makes them matter. There's no limit to how much a story wants you to care about their main characters, but give too much attention to someone smaller, and you could distract from who the story is really about. But if you don't acknowledge the background enough, you risk having your main characters exist in a bubble outside of the broader society in which they interact. Background characters not only represent people, they also represent place. These background fish aren't just fish, they're the citizens of Bikini Bottom, and the setting in which they inhabit is represented through them. And I think that their presentation is so well done for the reasons I stated earlier, and many others, that they've truly made us feel a connection to a fictional town in the ocean full of talking fish. Hey, if you like this video, maybe you'd like to check out this other video right here. Or if you're interested in my video on the SpongeBob Game Boy Advance game Super Sponge, check out this other video right here. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.